The world has never changed faster and will never change slower. Welcome to the We Are Future series, where we get to talk to global thought leaders and industry experts on all things digital, technology and innovation, and how it impacts the way we live, work, act and interact. Now tune in for those candid conversations and be part of creating the future of work.
So I'm very excited to welcome our next guest. I have Vinnie D'Alessandro with me today, and he comes with a wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And Vinnie has a wealth of knowledge and experience. He's actually one of the co-founders of Ratio, and that's a consultancy specializing in technology, strategy and automation. He also is a Chief Product Officer for Aged Care, a startup in Umbrella Solutions, and a co-founder of the experience gifting platform Gifting Out, which I'm sure he'll talk to a little bit more through this talk. And really, I mean, personally, Vinnie and I had connected a few months ago, or nearly a year now, knowing he had such a breadth of experience. He's got 20 years of technology experience across different industries, and he was previously was the head of technology at Silver Chef, and in that time, his team actually delivered a world-leading automated credit decision platform that really showcased that time that he was there. And so I'm very excited to explore the future of work and what Vinnie's doing in this space in the next 15-20 minutes. Thanks again, Vinnie.
Great. Look, thanks, Jen. And look, it has been an exciting last couple of months, and it's great for you to invite me on, and I'm very happy for us to spend some time together talking about the future of work.
Cool. Awesome. And so I guess first things first, obviously I've given a little bit of an introduction, but what's on your plate at the moment, Vinnie, with you? What's your priorities and where are you spending your time?
Sure. So just recently I announced I was the Chief Product Officer for one of the startups I've been working on for quite a while, called Umbrella Solutions. Mm-hmm. And that's looking to bring technology and automated solutions into aged care and really giving time back to the carers. So hopefully we'll have a product out in the coming weeks that will get us into the industry and really help the people that are on the coalface and supporting those in our community that need it most. Also working with a tourism startup that I'm really proud of, which is Gifting Out. It's a global experience gifting platform being run out of Queensland. And we've now got over 12,000 experiences online that can be booked live and gifted to anyone in the world. So
wow,
it's quite diverse. And then in my spare time, I'm working with Ratio to offer consultancy and strategy advice for small to medium businesses and even large businesses that are looking to take that next step on the digital transformation journey, and in particular focusing on some practical automated work that can happen that can allow their businesses to scale.
That's awesome. And it sounds like in a way you've kind of created these different streams of work that provide you with different value, really, isn't it? So you've got that real contribution type platform in the Gifting Owl, and then you're also pioneering, so to speak, with your consulting business. Would you say that you've done that purposely, or that's just the way that it's worked out?
Oh, look, I think diversity's been a big driver for the last sort of 6 to 9 months. It's about saying that I found over my career that technology is one of those really cool segments of the industry that traverses those boundaries. So whether it be tourism or aged care, financial services, it's quite easy to move into those different spheres. And what you find is you get this amazing exposure to new businesses, the way people work, and being able to take that knowledge and that information and use that in other industries is really exciting. And so, for example, tourism is my first real foray into tourism in a real leadership sense, and just seeing that they're maybe 2-3 years behind some other industries, say financial services, in the use of technology, but their acceleration, bringing in new platform businesses over the last 3 years has been incredible. So just being on that wave of technology innovation that's happening in tourism is great. And then we have a look at aged care, which is going through some challenges now with the Royal Commission, and being able to bring in a different lens and to say, look, they do so many manual processes here and it's quite documentation heavy. How can we automate that? We've done that in financial services. How do we give time back to these carers so that they can focus on the people and not the transactions?
Yeah, cool. So it sounds like you are impacting quite a few different industries. So you said aged care, for example, probably not an area where it's seen a lot of technology, I'm assuming. But I guess if you were to look at any of the themes that are coming out of all these different industries, knowing your expertise is in that automation and technology space, have you found that there are, some top innovations or changes that you've seen impact industries, across these different industries that you're working with over the last year or so?
Yeah, look, and I think it's been coming probably the last 3 or 4 years. The main one that I've seen is this consumer-driven technology. So you have a look at people that have a phone in their pocket that can do things that we couldn't do with computers, say, 10, 15 years ago. And the ability to have that technology capability to use new products like Netflix and Uber, there's an expectation for people to be able to do almost anything with the compute they've got in their pockets. And I think some areas of business are still trying to catch up. So when I first started way back in the early 90s, there were still people in the company that I worked for that didn't have a computer. Now, obviously, things have changed dramatically, but back in those days, people would go to work and they would have the latest technology at work. And now that's flipped. So people have the latest technology at home, and now they're going to work and getting a little bit disappointed with some of the manual processes that exist.
Yeah.
So the ability for people to accept technology change has developed over the last couple of years, where you used to roll out whole change programs to do an update to your Office version. Now people are updating their apps on an almost daily basis. So I think what's happened is business is now starting to understand that people want a faster cadence for change. But that brings challenges as well. So look, I think that consumerization of technology is driving a lot of change, but there's also a roadblock there, and that's the resilience of people to deal with organizational change, both from a technology perspective and a role perspective.
Yeah, that's such a great insight. I've never actually thought about it in that way, about the rate of change, so to speak, in terms of home use technology versus business. And I think absolutely right. That kind of really clicked for me in terms of, for everything that it's happening in the home space, but not so much in the workplace. And it's probably, would you say it's becoming more difficult for businesses, especially organizations of such a larger size, to scale or, bring in new technologies or keep up with that, just due to the nature of how big they are? Or, do you think that's, am I making an assumption there is actually something that's not a hindrance to the rapidness of the change?
Oh, look, the size and scale of a business does impact its ability to change. Now, that's not to say that businesses that are large can't change. We've definitely seen some examples of that. But I think the structure of businesses still has some gaps to allow for technology change. And there's still a very big disconnect between the technology function within a business and the leadership and strategic vision of that business. Now, there are some businesses that bring that together quite well, and they're usually what people refer to as startups or quite new businesses that have had technology as their core, where the business is built around technology. They're able to change quite quickly. But then you have a look at some of those more traditional organizations that have struggled to get that change because technology hasn't been their core capability. And so it was always seen as a back office capability and not really adding strategic value. So it's the organizations that succeed are the ones that say, look, technology is not a separate thing. It's part of our business. Our customers expect a digital experience when they come to us. And look, one of the best examples I've seen has been Up Banking. Dom and the team there have done an amazing job in terms of the rate of change that they can take from what is quite traditionally a slow-moving industry of banking and consumer banking to bringing out new products on almost a daily basis, they've shown that you can take an industry that's seen as quite slow moving and be quite innovative and fast moving if you bring technology into that business conversation.
Yeah, cool. And so I guess knowing that, and if we've got our leaders that are listening to this particular podcast, how, if there was one or two things that they could start thinking about or looking at now to help with the transition to changes that are happening around their industries, what would be your advice to them?
Oh, look, I think what they've got to do is they've got to start bringing in technology and product design people into the executive area. I was quite lucky at Service Chef. We had quite a progressive executive team, and we were able to have those conversations. We were able to talk about the customer experience, the customer journey, and how technology fitted into those environments. Now, again, that didn't make change easy, but having the leadership team take on that change as a business challenge and get behind it.
Yeah.
So what we find is a lot of technology-driven change fails because the leaders of the business aren't fully behind it. And so I guess my message to those leaders would be get in and understand the technology. It can be a little bit daunting, but find people in the industry that you trust that have done that sort of change before, and that might be a vendor, it might be an implementation partner, it might be an executive from another business that have done that sort of digital transformation, and hear the war stories, hear what works, hear what doesn't work. And I think now a lot of industries, especially say financial services, people are willing to share those stories. Previously, they used to keep all their
Sure.
IP locked away.
Yeah,
But now you can go to a meetup and you see competitors, strong competitors in the market that are happy to get up on stage together and talk about the work that they do. And I encourage the executives and leaders of these businesses to get out and get involved in those discussions, because that's how we learn and that's how we share and that's how we're going to raise the industry capability.
Yeah, absolutely. Leveraging from each other. I absolutely agree with that. And I have this sort of saying around, it's not competition anymore, it's only collaboration, because we need to really see our competitors differently. And I think your example there is, a really good testament to that theory, is that work traditionally where we would hold on to things, or I guess keep that IP close to our chests. It doesn't actually help anyone, including ourselves, when we do that anymore, because there are so many changes. There's no way that even if you shared all of your knowledge, that one organization would be able to capture all that and implement that. So it doesn't make sense anymore. So I completely get what you're saying there.
And look, along those lines, you talked briefly about the technology we implemented at Service Chef with that automated credit decisioning platform.
Yeah.
None of the technology we used was brand new. It was multifaceted. It was quite complex, absolutely. But there wasn't any new technology that we created. So we were able to use APIs. We were able to use credit systems that had existed in the market for years, but put them together in an elegant solution that was focused on a customer outcome. And that's real innovation. You don't actually have to go and create a new product. You can take existing products, but just think about how you can use it differently and really focus on what the outcome is going to be for your customer or consumer.
Yeah, cool. And so I guess to flip it a little bit, Vinnie, I'd love to know what your thoughts are with all these changes that we're talking about for individuals that either, are impacted by these changes as an employee, or potentially people that are in a sense looking at changing their careers or wanting to know what would be things to start thinking about now to because of the impacts to their jobs or their skill sets and the way that they work. What would you be saying to them? What have you seen, or what have you been providing as consulting advice to individuals that really want to work in the space, or make sure that their skill sets are relevant still based on all these changes?
Okay, absolutely. I think you need to look at it at two sides of the coin. So the first one is around the people that are implementing the change or transformation. Mm-hmm. You need to keep in mind what's going to happen with the people that have been impacted by this. So, look, automation, there's a lot of fear out in the market that people are going to lose their jobs. Look, automation has been around for centuries. Have a look at the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
You have a look at things like harvesting in farming. The output of the farming industry has exponentially grown, yet the number of people have dwindled dramatically. But those people aren't lost to the workforce. They actually go and adapt and go and work in different roles. And as leaders, we need to be very mindful that the people that are being impacted by this change around automation or digitalisation, they need to know what's next. So being able to give them a pathway to transition from the jobs they do today to the jobs they're going to do in the future, they need to be able to see a path. It's quite daunting when someone goes into work on a Friday using their existing systems, and then on a Monday, their daily tasks have changed dramatically. So with that change comes resistance, fear, and that can slow down transformation within a business. But if the leaders can show them the way, this is what your job's going to look like in the coming weeks, and this is how we're going to train you to get to that point, I think that will help. And then on the people that are being impacted by the change, firstly, get involved. A lot of these projects start quite early. They ask for people from the business to be involved, to be a part of the project. Definitely put your hand up for that. Get an understanding of why the technology is being implemented, what it's going to mean for your role, and then start to think about what your future of work looks like. If you used to do a lot of data entry that's now been taken by automation, well, that frees up you to spend more time with your customers. Now, that's a positive thing.
Right.
But you've still got to be able to go through the process and understand the skills that I was doing yesterday that may have been able to enter data into Excel at a quick rate. I've now got to spend more time on the phone with customers. How do I develop those skills? And then I think just generally, the trend that I'm starting to see in industry and the leaders that are successful is that specific domain knowledge and then specialization and expertise, even though it's still required in the industry, it's becoming less prominent. If you're going to be successful in a business, you need to have a broad set of skills. And so working with people, collaborating with people, understanding different roles like sales, marketing, technology, finance, understanding those different segments of a business and how a business in general runs, that's going to set you up for success in the future. Because I think we already know that people don't do the job that they started their careers in. Those jobs change and adapt over time. And the broader set of knowledge you have across a business gives you a greater opportunity to find new roles and grow your career.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like how you explained that the fear of automation is still something that's fairly commonplace, even though it's been around for years. There's still this perception that it's replacing people's jobs, but in actual fact, it's empowering us to create new jobs or new roles that we never had the opportunity to create before because, the data entry, for example, was done by people. Like social media didn't exist how many years ago, and now social media management is actually a role for someone.
It's crazy to think that when I was born, my role in technology management didn't exist.
Right.
My wife, who's an environmental scientist, her job didn't exist. So we're lucky we've got a young child. I don't know what his role's going to be. His role probably
doesn't exist.
And that's just his first one. It's going to be really interesting to see what his second, third, fourth, 10th role in his career is going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that's probably a great point. We need to start reframing that it's actually an exciting thing that we don't know what is coming rather than fear the unknown, so to speak. Because whether people are aware of it or not, we've moved into roles that didn't exist, 20 years ago. And so it's even more, have you noticed that it's even more commonplace for, say, corporates to move into startups or, even consulting spaces whilst they have traditional jobs and people sort of experimenting with where they can add value to different businesses? Have you noticed that trend as well, or have you been riding that wave?
Well, that's sort of how I got into it. I was lucky enough to be working with a couple of startups alongside of my my corporate work. There's a lot of people doing side gigs, especially in the technology and software development space. It's now commonplace in an interview to say, right, what's your side gig? Where previously you'd have people hide that away from their employers just in case it set them off. And now employers are starting to look and go, right, I want people that are multifaceted. I want people that are pushing the boundaries because they get a benefit from having that different skill set brought into a corporate environment.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
Yeah, so look, I think it's fantastic. I'm seeing more and more of my network doing multiple jobs at the same time. What is still a little bit disappointing is how slow most organizations are to accepting that. There's still that 9 to 5, you'll work for this single company and you won't do anything outside those hours, and we expect you to put in over and above your 40 hours every week. Look, that mindset is still very prevalent in the industry. There's a few shining lights where they don't focus on that, but again, they're few and far between.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting. So, because one of the questions I was going to ask as well is, based on your own experience, how much appetite you've seen organisations bring in external expertise. So rather than look at it internally, has that been a kind of an inconsistent experience with, you know, potential clients, being that you are in the consulting space at the moment with some of your work? Or have you found that, you know, people are more and more open to the idea, or at least having the conversations? And again, I guess I'm thinking about people that might be listening to this who have been potentially wondering whether they're in a situation or position to start looking at alternatives to the way that they work now, and they want to get involved, and they want to know if this is an opportunity they should start embarking on now, or what's been your personal experience?
Oh, look, there's definitely been an increase in appetite around taking on different points of view, and it's definitely improving. There's still some organisations that will only deal with large partners, that will only deal with the big four, and or consulting companies that have locked in a 10-year deal. That's still very prevalent. But what we're starting to see is even some of those larger organisations are looking to augment their, I guess, gene pool of thoughts, and bringing in smaller boutique organisations, and that's exciting. And what I have found that's been really important, and you and I have talked about this previously, has been around that relationship-driven partnerships. So, going to meetups, having a really active network, people are willing to say, look, I've seen that problem before and I know someone that can solve it, and getting introduced to those networks. And look, I've had a lot of success both with my network and personally is going in and giving up my time freely to help people. And if you don't go in there looking for a payment, a transaction to come out of it, but just share your time freely, work comes your way. People trust that they like the fact that you're giving back to the community, and they're willing to work with you again. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, great advice. Thank you for that, Vinnie. I guess I'd love to know too, knowing that you have your fingers in a few pies, so to speak, what are you most excited about, either professionally in terms of what you're working on now, or in terms of themes or trends that you're seeing that are shaping the way that the future of work and the way that we're working with each other?
Oh, look, automation is really exciting, but it's not the technology itself; it's actually the outcome. So what I'm excited about is seeing automation come in and allow businesses to free up their staff to do more exciting things. Now, whether that's learn a new capability within the business, spend more time with their customers, or maybe even reduce their hours working their core jobs so that they can go and take on some other flexible work, or maybe even just spend time with their family. Look, I've been quite lucky to be able to manage my work-life balance a lot better. It's not to say that I do any less work, but it's definitely more focused around my family. And I think there are a lot of people out in the corporate world that would love to do that, but they're constrained. They're constrained by having that main income coming from one business, usually a corporation. But having automation come in and have businesses, have the strength of character to allow their people to branch out, to trust that they will both do work for them and for their own enjoyment, I think those businesses will really thrive. And I'm starting to see a few, even in Brisbane, and starting to give their staff a bit more latitude. And when that happens, I think their staff actually stay more committed, and it's a better outcome both for the business, for the employees, and also for their customers.
Yeah, very cool. And finally, Vinnie, if people who are listening to this, if they want to get in touch with you and speak more on any of the subjects that we brought up today, or just connect for potentially, future opportunities of future catch-ups, what's the best way for people to access you?
Look, you'll find me on LinkedIn. Just look up Vinnie D. That's probably the channel I'm most active in. Very happy to take people into my network and just catch up and have a coffee. I do have a lot of coffees at the moment, but it definitely it's a part of my role that I really enjoy. So if you've got some cool ideas, or you just want to talk about your industry or some of the challenges you're having, reach out to me on LinkedIn, and more than happy to catch up.
Cool. And from personal experience, I can absolutely validate the fact that coffee catch-ups with Vinnie are good times. You get learning, you get a few laughs in there, no doubt, and some really good case studies that you can walk away from and start working on. He's got a wealth of knowledge, and so again, I'm so thankful that he has spent some time to just do this so that we could share it with you guys. And I look forward to our next catch-up, Vinnie, which hopefully will be sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Jen, and have a great day.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
That wraps up another insightful conversation about the future of work. And now we want to hear from you. What was the biggest takeaway from this conversation? Make sure you share your learnings on LinkedIn and also tag our guest speakers. And of course, if you or somebody you know has some more interesting take on the future of work, send us an email to contact@wearefuture.com. Until next time, and keep creating the future of work.